due to their endless digital reiterations, social understandings of glamour are obsessed with the present tense. And yes, it is a contemporaneous topic, along with other important matters like Kim Kardashian's rear end and the imminent demise of the world due to climate change. But it is important to remember that everything in the present tense is also a historical construction. Glamour has a very rich history. The etymological beginnings of glamour were to do with magic and witchcraft. To cast a glamour over someone was to spell them, and it was often performed by witches and devils. At this point, there were no links to wealth and beauty. The aristocracy lived luxurious lives, but this was just their rightful inheritance. Glamour, as argued by historian Stephen Gundel, came about with the rise of the bourgeoisie at the end of the 18th century as a direct antidote to the middle-class morality they brought with them. To illustrate this, he looks at the figure of the woman, well, two caricatures of women in particular. Bourgeois wives were quiet, respectable, chaste, and confined to the privacy of their homes. The courtesan, on the other hand, was a glamorous, transgressive, public woman who acted almost as a luxury object to be possessed by fabulously wealthy men. The men became glamorous through social association with her, and economically by flaunting the unnecessary money they spent on her upkeep. Glamour and capitalism walk hand in hand. Glamour belongs to the glamorous, but also promises to belong to any old person if they buy the right things and act in the right way. It's linked to the establishment of fashion houses and department stores and mass consumption. In post-World War II America, for example, cars were iconic objects through which glamour was mobilized. No longer just about function, owning a certain car, a stylized car, represented the fantasy of the American dream. With the right car, anyone could be glamorous, lost in a fantasy of their heads. Now we are up to speed with the historical context. Let's look at glamour in microcosm, specifically the material and social factors that go into making something glamorous. Consider the walking bead. Not really what you'd call glam, right? Give us a few moments and that's all going to change. Glamour is partly about materials and the associations and assemblages we link them to. Treated leather? Practical in this context. Satin, velvet, lace? All shinier and more delicate, therefore manifestations of wealth and glamour. Well, now we're talking. This is the kind of shoe that has the potential to make you go, wow! But we're not quite done yet. It's also important to think about context and brand, the two most important ingredients for modern glamour. These are the bits associated with glamour's imaginary power, the one that whisks you out of your ordinary life and into a fantasy daydream where you are perfect, successful and attractive. This is the heavy stuff brands like Jimmy Choo mobilize to sell you things and make money. The aesthetic power of things, though, is not just tied to their material and non-human associations. They're closely linked with people too, which is what we're going to take a look at next.
Only one creature has carved a life for itself in every habitat on Earth. That creature is us. All over the world, we use our ingenuity to survive in wild places, face to face with raw nature. But millennials are encountering newer territories and newer challenges, with the blogosphere transforming behavioural and migratory patterns of our species as never before. These digital and cultural producers are now found in every corner of the globe. And here, in the urban jungle, they're thriving. We begin in the capitalist havens of London's Covent Garden, the pinnacle of human imagination. A sparkling consumerist temple, the young influencer is provided with everything they could ever wish for. Enchanted by the aesthetic pleasures that surround her, the influencer begins to gather luxury goods that become central to the staging of her glamorous lifestyle online. In the words of senior zoologist Nigel Thrift, these products hold an effective force on our subject. Their aesthetic pleasures have a grand quality and substance, an effective force that is active, intelligible, and has genuine efficacy. It is a force that generates sensory and emotional gratification on both our subject and her followers. But life here isn't quite as easy as a socially mediated representation of our Western, light-skinned, heterosexual individual may suggest. Having lived off nothing but tea toxins, gluten-free quinoa salads, and avocados for over 6 months, here we see the young female in the hunt for some real substantial food. This is where our influencer encounters her first difficulty, while she hides amongst the busy crowds of the hunting grounds. Staring longingly at the local McDonald's, she is forced to make an instant decision to ensure the survival of her online reputation. Emerging from her cover, the female takes a swift and impressive dash into the Paul's Bakery, purchasing her gluten-free, vegan ciabatta. All is saved. With the urban jungle so rich in nourishing food that can be gathered quickly, it leaves our influencer plenty of time for other important rituals, such as photo taking. The digital cultural producer clears a space in the forest to serve as her outdoor studio. Influencer behaviorists Duffy and Hund have noted how it is important to understand that this process is carefully staged to ensure adequate lighting, angles, and placing of products that she is paid to promote. In a practice investigated by Odrezat et al., known as influencer marketing, we see the youngling exhibit her branded goods for the image as she takes advantage of her influence over potential buyers to obtain monetary rewards. Time to begin the show. In an oddly mesmerizing performance, we see how socially mediated entrepreneurialism gets articulated through attention-seeking behaviors as the influencer pouts her lips and flaunts her chest feathers to attract more potential work. This is certainly an eye-catching performance, but competition in the online territory is fierce. Unhappy with the work of her unpaid labour, she moves to a more remarkable location, where she is more likely to attract the likes. Tired, but determined, the courageous influencer will sometimes take daring risks in order to gain social capital in her online habitat. She begins to climb. In a cruel twist of fate, she falls to the ground, defeated. Here we see the very real disadvantages of a 24/7 working lifestyle, where the influencer's spaces of leisure are transformed into spaces of work, as she is continually having to create and uphold a desirable image of herself to her following. Now the search for a place to rest becomes increasingly urgent. She's definitely not feeling that great, but the influencer's natural instinct and undying work ethic override her exhaustion, and she knows she must post a photo to the gram. Grasping her cellular device, she fearlessly enters the wilderness that is the blogosphere, posts her content, and doesn't look back. In this uncertain time, she has her notifications bar in her sight, and her concentration cannot be broken. Let us hope that she is rewarded for her efforts.
Glamour is not just the domain of objects. It equally concerns people. People are able to incorporate others and parts of others, including objects. This becomes apparent when we consider how glamorous personas are constructed. Nowadays, the glamorous persona is often associated with high-end fashion. It involves combination of sex appeal, luxury, wealth, and talent. However, the deliverers of glamour tend to be celebrities, glamorous faces, well-known, only thanks a number of agents behind the scene. Today we have the pleasure to hear from a few of the people involved in the networks and technologies required to construct a glamorous persona.
Disons qui c'est de coup.
Glamour is definitely about personas. My work persona is very glamorous and projects this alternative version of me who is never tired or, even human. It's a kind of imaginary norm, a character I play out to the public that's entirely separate from who I am to myself and those close to me. It's all about knowingly engaging in a form of self-representation, using all the tools that are available to you so that your identity becomes entirely about effective and aesthetic allure.
The imagination of glamour can be captured and guided by a whole set of effective devices that are able to introduce in worlds that have been difficult to approach before. Hollywood studio photographers established the semiotics of glamour and technical qualities of producing and reproducing a set of visual signs. That visual gaze is calculated in every way, from the stance of the body through clothes and hair, body poses, costumes and lighting. All in all, I think nowadays the allure is largely produced by the creation of worlds in which the boundaries between alive and not alive, material, immaterial, technical and aesthetic have become increasingly blurred.
I think style wants us to love it, and we want to be charmed by it. We want to emulate it. We want to be definite about it. In short, it generates passions. Style can be counted as an agent in its own right, in that it defines what is at issue in the world. With this minimal definition in play, we can now move on to consider how capitalism captivates by addressing a specific style of allure. Personalities may contribute something to the celebrity's look and feel, but so do a vast range of colourful materials. Clothes, jewelleries, hair, skin, flesh, shapes, colours, all have their part to play. Actually, these colourful materials are a vital part of what glamorous celebrities are, lively fabrications which are telling in every sense. What I think is that we can see in the charming personality is a certain total geography of objects, one that the charming agent acknowledges and inhibits to the exclusion of others. Examples of hairstyles and hair techniques like hair dryers or curlers, shampoo for example. These materials combined with other accessories are used to produce new looks that appear fashionable and contribute to the glamorous persona. Glamour is a manipulation, it is seductive, it is a certain form of deception, but it is something more too. It is a meticulous selection and control.
So, just so you know, I was definitely one of Renee's first followers. I found her gram when she was like under 1k, so I knew about her even before she started filming How to Wed a Rascal. I followed her journey and I've been there from the very start. Like my friend Hannah, she said she followed her first, but like she totally didn't, because she only really started talking about her after California Gold. I've met her like 8 times now. Well, seen her. But yeah, we're basically best friends now, because I feel like I know her. I just love her whole aesthetic, her style. We're so alike. I mean, we always buy the same things, and I always check out the products that she's paid to promote. Like, I want to be her. I always check her geotags and find out where she goes. And oh my God, did I tell you about that time I nearly got arrested? Like, I bought this drone with a camera to try and fly over her house. Not in like a creepy stalker way, just because I wanted to know more about her. And like, I didn't know it was illegal. Like, she totally wouldn't mind. I mean, she'd be okay, like, we're friends, like, we could basically be family. Okay, sorry, I'll stop. Behind the glamour and blinding light of the vast entertainment industry,
With these so-called beautiful, happy folk is there a sordid, bleak underworld.
as each one thinks they are certainly the best, surely time is the true quality test. Vast sums spent to create the perfect image, the creators shown as almost godly figures.
All trying to grab the money and true fame, how many fall by the wayside in this quest? In hard times the public have so little cash to splash out on an even bigger bash.
Television pushing the seekers of their own fortune, while the mental strive for their own goals.
A false image is created for these larger audiences who need a focus and images to contemplate. Performances that for some take a high cost. As the hopefuls fail, the dream is lost.
There are, of course, winners and losers, but as you watch and read the news, filled with the exploits of these artists spending and living lavish lives that most of us can only ever visualise,
What really lays behind the lies.